ensuring that the things we focused on, the legislation we introduced, was for the best interest of all Iowans and what Iowans want. That includes making sure that costs are lower for everyday Iowans. Things like expanding access to affordable childcare. We introduced legislation to raise the minimum wage, freeze tuition at our state universities. We introduced retirement security for more Iowans. We were focused on lowering costs for Iowa families by introducing real policy solutions. We also added reproductive freedom. We introduced a bill to add reproductive freedom to Iowa's constitution and expand access to reproductive health care. We believe it's important to invest in public schools by fully funding public schools, by raising pay for teachers, and by stopping book bans, and by protecting our AEAs. Finally, we continue to fight to make sure that kids in public school get the access, the education, and everything they need to be successful and stay in Iowa and live their best lives here. We introduced all of those things, and Republicans ignored each and every one of them. The things we've introduced this legislative session were for everyday Iowans to help make their lives better, and Republicans chose politics and special interests. As we look at what they've done, we know that they've made it harder for people to vote. They've made it harder for people who are trying to lift themselves up with a guaranteed income in our communities. We know that they eliminated AEA mental health services and made it harder for special education. There are many things I'm disappointed with this session. But when you want to look at politics, and you want to look at where politics won the day in the Republican caucus, look no farther than the area education agency cuts we saw this year. We have heard about this from the beginning of the session. The governor mentioned it in her condition of the state address as an urgent need facing our state. And then for weeks and months, we heard from thousands of Iowans, many of whom had never reached out to their legislator before, saying, please take care and protect these services.
I mean, that was a very large piece of policy, and I think really if you think about it and look at it, there's a reason why that there really hasn't been a dramatic reshuffling or overview of the AAs, and I think part of that is because it is a very significant issue to try to tackle, and I think that we were able to put the work in, and like I said, the bill that we passed out of the House, we felt very proud of, and most of that bill stayed intact. We know it wasn't exactly the same, but we put a lot of work into getting a bill that would protect special education and make sure that it gives some flexibility to our local school districts. And a lot of the feedback that we're hearing across the state as our members have had town meetings and other things is there's a lot of things in the bill that we've got to make sure that we support those and they work out, but there's a lot of things in the bill as well that schools are excited to have some opportunities to have some flexibility with some of those funds. So look forward to seeing how that plays out, and I think the bill that we were able to put together, I think will continue to deliver on those special ed services.
We started this session out as Senate Democrats offering a better deal for Iowans with very specific plans on how to increase freedom, opportunity, and accountability. And unfortunately, our Republican colleagues have refused to join us in that effort. They chose instead to serve special interests and give more power to the governor. Iowans wanted us to ensure health care freedom, and they wanted a solution to the crisis in our nursing homes. They wanted strong public schools and respect for Iowa's educators, and those are the priorities that the Democrats really try to pursue during this last legislative session. Iowans will remember how Republicans chose to serve their governor rather than their constituents. They'll remember how they slashed our area education agencies and put special interests over Iowa's children. And they will remember in November.
Try to lay out an agenda for our caucus. We've been doing that since I've been in leadership, trying to really lay out a bold agenda that we campaign on, try to follow through on. We're very fortunate of those priority bills. There are 11 sent to the governor's desk. 9 of those passed in bipartisan fashion. So like I said, I feel like the things that we're taking from all across the state in all 99 counties, we're trying to reflect those in legislation that we're putting together. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
You and Leader Mitchell both referred to this being an especially tough session. You know, why did you both say that? What made this especially hard?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons in play. I think one of them being is when you have such a large caucus, plus you have so many of those members going through their first, potential election year, looking at the bills that are going to be ahead of them and some of the decisions that they're trying to make. And clearly, when it comes to working with the Senate, trying to put a budget together, continue to advance on tax policy, we've done a lot of difficult things as a caucus, and working with the Senate and with the governor, and a lot of the things that have been left are some of the harder things. So I think some of it just naturally happens because we've been able to get so many things done. The ones that are left aren't necessarily going to be the easy things.